This is Rick Morgan. I'm your friendly neighborhood comic book scientist, and I'm joined by Jack Louie tonight. Hello, Jack.
What's good, brother? How you doing, man?
Good, man. It's good to see you.
It's good to see
Jack's
you
an
as
old
well.
old friend of mine, for full disclosure, and he is a novice comic book cleaner and presser. Fair to say, entirely new, right, Jack?
Entirely,
Yeah.
entirely.
So he wants to know some tips, and I'm hoping that some of the live viewers here today and can join in the chat too if they want. If I can figure out how to make the chat work. But Jack, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what kind of comics you like, how you got started, stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. So probably probably like most of us who got into comic books, right? As a kid in the early '80s, watching getting into Dungeons and Dragons and watching Spider-Man and X-Men on TV and stuff like that. I had a local comic shop that was a bike ride away from where I lived, and so at that time, that's how I get my comics back in the good old days. I remember just being a small. It's no longer there now, but it used to be just a small, at least how I remember it, a small kind of dingy shop. But as a 12, 13, 14-year-old boy going in, it was just like Shangri-La because of comic
Yeah,
books, right?
totally. The smell hit me when I was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. So my hard-earned money that I had, I'd go spend it on comics. Um, and I've had a love of them since then. And really, part of it was because I enjoyed drawing, and so I would buy. Part of the reason I would buy comics is because I would buy them for the art, and then I would draw the art. I would copy like the
Mm,
covers or my favorite um, superheroes. I would draw them because I was taking art and everything in school, so that was part of the draw for me at the time as well. Um, and then through the years, just kind of been, as you get older, you start working, you go to school, do all this stuff. I drop in and out of comics. I get in, I collect them for a bit, and I stop. Goes a few years, I jump back in again. Something piques my interest, I'm in and out. So uh, it's kind of been my story with comics and how I've collected them, but it's always been there for me. And I've just
mhm.
packed them. My comics, I've been packed them around the world, um, and from place to place in boxes, and maybe sometimes not packed so well. Multiple comics in a sleeve in a bag, some not bagged and boarded, that whole story. So uh, at some point in time, I realized, well, that's probably not the best way to handle this. So you know, I ended up, obviously rebagging, boarding everything, and taking things a little more serious uh, up to this point today. And ultimately, I mean, Spider-Man and X-Men, really X-Men, I think was the comic, the superhero group that got me into it. And then of course, Spider-Man is always a draw. How can it not be? Right, Rick.
Yeah, of course. That's right. The stuff back here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
so
hear you.
so yeah,
So do you? We all have like similar memories, right? Like, and similar memories of fading in and out as we grow up, and like it wasn't cool. Like back in the early '80s, it was like now it's kind of nerdy cool, but
right.
uh, hey, Bob asked if anyone got an Amazing Fantasy 15, or he's willing to sell for less than $1,000. Do you have some? I think 1,000 might be below my my selling point. I don't think that there is actually an amount of money that there could be, but I get a chuckle out of that. But yeah, people fade in and out, and then there's a couple kinds of groups of people, right, that I talk to a lot, and I'm trying to appeal more to the person who, like you, Jack, who has these books, who are their precious memories, right? They're not maybe valuable to everybody, but they're valuable to you. And if you, perish forbid, die someday, you can leave it to your wife and kids, like in a nice state that they can sell, don't have to worry about it, or just to preserve it and cherish this thing, right? I'm not a plastic coffin guy. I call him the slab guy because I
Right.
actually I do read my books. I do read them. I do recognize that the slabs look great and they're very protective. I just have to read my books, and so I do read them. And in fact, I have Daredevil #1. I was just reading yesterday. I love this
That's
book.
no,
It's
that's
great to
awesome,
see
dude.
it. Spider-Man's on the cover. It's like I have every Spider-Man appearance in all the '60s and the '70s in order in any book, even if it's just his hand or something or a ghost image. And this is one of the early cover appearances of Spider-Man, even though he doesn't
Yeah.
actually appear in this book. He's on the covers. That's an important one for me. But I I appreciate that you want to get back into it, maybe because just for cleaning and pressing, because that's what some people do. They start to clean and press, and then they open up a book and they start reading it and say, "Oh, this is kind of fun, right? This was kind of a fun thing for me to enjoy." And I think you said that you started doing the same. Like you start seeing books on Whatnot, you start buying them or reading them, and sort of getting back into this. And it makes me happy to see that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's you're exactly right, Rick.
yeah. And so what I want to talk to you a little bit about is, and I'll come back and ask you for a favorite comic book memory or story in a minute. But I want to say
Sure.
that to my brain, I divide it into 3 levels of cleaning and pressing. Restoration, whatever you want to call it. I said the first level is just dry cleaning and pressing, where you have a press, maybe a t-shirt press, maybe a larger press, maybe a
Mm.
steamer, maybe an eraser, and you will clean that book and either send it in and have it done or have it graded, or you will cherish it yourself and restore it. That's level 1, and it's most accessible and easiest level, and the thing most people will do themselves without sending it out.
Right.
Level 2 for me is stain removal, ink removal, wet cleaning a book with MacuClean, which I use, and then that's that middle level. The third level, the highest, like the PhD level. I think the first like an associate's degree, the middle is like a bachelor's degree, and the third is like a PhD. Is what Jerry the Jurbuck's here, and this dude, like, you wouldn't believe the stuff this guy does, and he does leaf casting, which I don't do. I have tried, but I'm nowhere near as good as Jerry is, and he's the guy. He's the number 1 best guy in leaf casting that there is, and that's where he takes the paper and he casts it, the methyl cellulose, and actually does repairs on books. And he's the guy that, to me, and Jerry will correct me if I'm wrong, gives a big middle finger to the CGC, like quite a bit. He pokes the dragon like quite a bit with those guys. And that anything that you have to remove a cover, or if you have to remove a staple, or if you do leaf casting, especially any book that's worth more than $10,000, especially, that to me, that's like level 3 level stuff. Like, you really got to know your stuff to get into that. And Jerry says, "Thank you, Rick," but Jerry, no, thank you, dude. Like, this guy is like, you don't believe. You only see his hands. He never shows himself, but the stuff he does is like, holy crap.
That's
So
crazy.
like, I'm in awe of him. So I'll wash a book in a bathtub, but I won't do leaf casting. That's bonkers, right? So those are the 3 levels. And so we'll talk today about level 1 with you, and and then maybe level 2 if you want to do more stuff later. But as you know, I make and sell things that I like to use myself. I
Yep.
don't make things that are available other places. I only make things that other people couldn't get. And I started off by with the MacuClean and a few tools. The MacuClean is a surfactant, and you know me to be a chemist, and I worked with you in the
Yes,
past,
sir.
and I'm a decent chemist, and I work with and I learned that there's this thing called the hydrophile lipophile balance in surfactants, and you want that to be as broad as possible, so you can clean as many things that have certain polarity, certain non-polarity, of what broad range, without being so harsh that it damages the material underneath it. So, like so you have this range that's wide, and it takes ink out of books. It
Okay.
takes sizing off of books, and if it's really wide, in fact, all industrial cleaners will do that. The secret to MacuClean is very narrow. It's a very terrible cleaner for anything but comic books, right? It only removes the sebum, they call it, the oil from hands and fingers. It's aged over time, and it looks kind of gray on a book. I don't know if I have a book here that has anything on it, but it doesn't remove ink. It happens to remove ink sometimes, but only about 1/5 of the time.
Okay.
But it's mostly for that gray, dingy look about a book that you have. That's kind of that schmutzy look. Let me see if I can find a book that has it on it. And so if you find something that looks kind of schmutzy like that, and I call it this, and I don't know if there's a better word for it, but it'll remove that stuff pretty well. It does a great job, and it removes it, but it removes some. Occasionally it'll remove some ink, like this stuff you see in this Miss Marvel will probably come off pretty easily. But then the normal gray cast that you see on a lot of older books will have that stuff will come off pretty rapidly, and you'll see how much dirt you get off with it, and it's targeted, right? It has a really narrow range to take that stuff off, but then you have to remove the MacuClean off itself. It doesn't leave a residue because it evaporates, but what it does remove is paper fines. If you look in the microscope, you'll see tiny little paper fines, and it'll leave those behind. And that's a level two. That's how I got started with this, was doing that. I actually started a long time ago. And I
Okay.
think I'm going to actually publish my whole life story for the comic book thing. But I started in the late 70s with Star Wars guys. And I would take stormtroopers and like the more common, like the cheaper, lower end guys, and I would cut their arms off and burn a hole in them with a magnifying glass. And I would trade them for other for other Star Wars guys. And then I got into comic books after spending that at a friend's house. And his brother was in the army, left some comic books behind. They gave me some Spider-Man Hulk books, which I actually still have. They're in a pile over there. And I took some of these books and I glued rocks to a Fantastic Four one, actually, to like the thing from my grandma's yard, like those red like lava rocks. And I like took some of my grandma's pantyhose and cut them up and glued them to the cover of the Spider-Man to like modify them so I could trade them. And then this guy told me, he said, "You're an idiot. Like, you can't do that. You have to make them look better and how it works, right?" And this was 1979. And I think I've been collecting comic books ever since I knew you, right? Since way back when. So,
yeah. Before that, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so I would then, the guy at the store, that was actually a drugstore, told me, like, what you got to do is put them under some encyclopedias and flatten them out, and you got to use an eraser on them. Like, he showed me this, like, it was now been 40 years since I started, and that's the original, like, how I started doing this. And I never really improved much for a long time, except for I started working in a paper mill in Albany, Oregon. I saw how they tested paper. I saw how they tested sizing. And so I'm working in the lab, watching and saying, well, here's how they test paper for strength, and how they use the binding, and how they use the fillers, and so I learned this stuff working at this paper mill in Albany, Oregon. And then as I got my undergraduate degree and graduate degree and started working, it was always like thinking about comic books at the same time. And so that's how this developed into what it is today. And I did my 10,000th book. I have lots of notebooks I've kept. I cleaned my 10,000th book in November of 2020.
10,000.
Like 10,000. Yeah, I did 10. But to be fair, the last year during COVID, I got like 3,000 done that last year. So it was like, it was home a lot, right? And so we got Bob's asking, Jack is new to the game. How did you and Jack meet and plan this interview? Jack, why don't you tell that story?
Oh yeah, sure, Bob. So, like I said, I've been in and out of comics, all my life, and then just recently, or probably within the last year or so, I got more heavily back into it and started getting a little more serious and jumping in and watching Rick's channel, watching YouTube videos, getting in on looking at eBay, looking at comics on whatnot, stuff like that. Going, just buying a ton of comics, and really, I think it's just at some point in time recently, I just realized, what, I got a lot of comics, and some of them, it looks like to me that it could be easily pressed and easily cleaned up. So should I send them in? I'm just a collector, so I don't sell comics. I just collect them, but on some of my comics, I want to be able to clean them up. And it seems fairly easy, but it can also at the same time seem fairly intimidating if you don't know what you're doing, which I don't. So just a few weeks back, or maybe three or so weeks ago, I was watching one of Rick's videos, and I realized, like, what the heck? What am I doing? Why haven't I contacted Rick to ask him about his questions? Because he's got his own patents on cleaning, and he does the guy does all this stuff. So what better way that one of my best friends is doing this, and I haven't even reached out to him. So, which seems kind of funny now that I think back. Right. We talked earlier, we chuckled. Anyway, so I reached out to Rick and said, hey, saw all this stuff, just asked some questions, and he came back and said, well, hey, yeah, no problem, Jack. I would totally help you out. And would you mind doing a video on it? I said, sure. I said, but keep in mind, I haven't done any of this, so I'm totally brand new. He's like, perfect. And here we are. So
yeah. So how did we meet in the first place? Tell him how that.
Oh, we met in the first place. So, actually, we met working at the same job together. Rick was a chemist in the lab in a company that I worked for, and I think I was working in quality QA at the time in an aerospace company. And we became friends because I think we were right across the hall from each other. So,
yeah, we were.
We had another friend, that basically a group of friends that we collectively ended up hanging out together. We ended up playing, video games on lunch. Rick at the time used to just live down the road, not too far from where we work. So we'd cruise out of work and go to his house, and that's where he show me his amazing collection, which is even way more amazing today. But at the time, I was blown away. And we developed a pretty fast friendship, and then it carried over into, hanging out at weekends, going to doing stuff, playing video games. We
Riding
talked
bikes,
earlier
playing
again
tennis.
about
Yeah.
playing tennis. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's been a friendship for, gosh, it's a couple of decades, I think.
28 years now.
Yeah,
Since,
yeah. So, and it's one of those things where, we don't see each other a lot like we used to, but I keep track of about social media. And actually, the funny thing is, this is the first time Rick and I have really been face to face to talk for a few years, other than chatting and text and email. So, but it's one of those things, you don't lose it. You catch up fairly quickly after a couple of minutes, So
yeah, we do. It's good. It's good to
yeah.
see you.
So
yeah, I like your hair. I like your haircut now too, Jack. Too.
oh yeah, it's
yeah,
it's nice. It's just a little shiny, right? So
right. I get it all the time from people say, "Hey, can you do something about your head?" So Jack, actually, Bob asked another question, which I love, and I was going to ask you anyway. What's your most coveted book? What's your own grail book that you? Well, what's a grail that you want, and what do you have that's your most coveted book?
Oh, so what grail do I want? So, well, I mean, Amazing Fantasy, obviously Amazing Spider #1, Amazing Fantasy. Those are grails that I don't have. Hulk, even some other ones like Hulk 181 and one of those, Rick. I'm sure you got another one probably laying back behind you somewhere. Some of the common ones, I just, at the time I was unfortunate. I mean, it was during that time that if I knew better, I would have been able to get those. It just didn't happen. So there are some of those big books that absolutely that I do want. In my collection now, I mean, I have, a lot of the modern, not a lot of, but I mean, majority modern, but I have a lot, it's because I started collecting in the mid 80s. So, I have a lot of those books there. Early Spider-Mans that I have, I think the earliest one is 30 something. Whether or not the value is there in them, those early Spider-Mans or X-Men's I appreciate, because those are ones that I bought myself, whether, just by accident I was able to get them. Other than that, Fallout, Miles Morales and all that stuff. I mean, have the newer type of grails, if you will. But I'm more concentrating now on the older books, really from the time when I grew up and even before that, that I'm really concentrating on, because to me those are, if you look at it from a value standpoint, they're obviously hold more value, but they also mean more to me because that's when I grew up, and I also enjoy the artists from that time. And I think it's just that's when I grew up at that time. So it means a lot more to me when I see, when I'm able to get those and hold them in my hand and read them and smell the comics and what they look like and read the stories of the time. That's really what I enjoy. That's where it kind of all starts. And that's kind of the core of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about like the basic cleaning and dry cleaning and pressing stuff that you do. Like if you are going to be like, let's start with dry cleaning, right? You take what I would call a few tools here. I'll grab some out of my little tool dish. Show you some of the basic stuff are this. It's like a white eraser. And this is a Mr. Clean drying. I really don't like to use these things. I will only in very special cases.
Is that like the little, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I hate them actually. I use a brush. I have like a painter's brush that I use to get eraser stuff off with.
Okay.
And there's absorbing this, and there's also these sponge pads here. Like these are creosote. You can see how it's dirty right here on this spot. That's because I curl it like this and I like drag it on a book. So what I might do, is something like you would start with. Well, this doesn't have a cover. Sometimes I harvest staples. I buy old books and I harvest all the staples and I save them up and I clean them for staple transfers. But you can just grab a book and, you hold it flat, of course, but then you would just lightly go over it with either a makeup pad or one of these, and you just sort of drag it along the surface. Usually I start at the spine and I go away from the spine so I don't have a chance of wrinkling it. Okay. This is just regular dry cleaning, right? And do the same thing on the front, on the other side. I just do light passes if I'm going to do that. Or I'll take a makeup pad, which I should have prepared better, but I'm sure I have a bunch of them in my drawer down here. Of course I don't, now that I'm looking for them. But just a regular cotton round, which I don't know why I don't have a bunch of seam right here. And I will just rub those on the book, and it'll pick up dirt, right? That'll just do its thing.
And using that dry, using the dry, which you said that actually will pick up some stuff and remove.
Oh yeah, this will pick up. See how much it's picked up on this last time I use it. Yeah, it picks up more than you think. It's a rubber sponge. I sell a dry cleaning kit. I don't sell many of them because I don't have any videos on dry cleaning because there are dozens of them there. I don't have much to offer in the way of dry cleaning that hasn't been offered before, and so I will do that. So I will rub those on the book, and I would take an eraser like this in the white areas only. Generally, take a white area, and I'll just usually, instead of going back and forth, it's hard to not do it. I'll put some gloves on, and I'll put one of my chamfer boards underneath the book. And I have these chamfered pressing boards. I'll put it underneath the cover, and then I will rub the same direction over and over. And I have really fine one that's ridiculously fine that you can barely even see it when it's in here, that I use for really tiny work. And I will do this guy right here. It's so tiny, so I'll use this guy right here for the really fine stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when I get like right in between the letters or something. And I also have this myriad packages of Q-tips from I forget where I got this thing. I got this somewhere in Georgia, but it has all these different sizes and shapes of Q-tips that I'll use for different finenesses. It's a variety pack, and I'll go over and just kind of, and I know I really rub them. I roll them around. And the thing is, you have to resist the urge to rub the book and to roll these things, because you want to expose fresh surfaces of cotton, and you also want to not wear a hole in the material to rough.
Gotcha.
Right? It's hard because you're patient, especially when you start getting good. You'll say, "Oh, I'm really good at this now. I'll just start rubbing it." And you just do not. Anytime you catch yourself doing a back and forth motion, you're doing something wrong. Just pet it the same direction. When you're doing this and you're cleaning something, I should switch to my other. Oh, my other camera's not out. I have another camera on a tripod that faces out. But but what you do is you just keep going the same exact way, right? So this is this way, and there's the spine. Don't go like that. Just go like this, right? And this prevents you from putting wrinkles in it, and it also prevents there from being weird patterns in the book from you going back and forth, right? That'll help a lot. Then what you want to do is you want to press a book, and to press it, you will want to use a steamer. And I just gave my steamer to Comic Con recently because he didn't have one, and so but I have another one here. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll steam a book, meaning that I will expose it to steam for 10 or 15 seconds till the page wrinkles. So the page will tell you, because the capillary action will take the tension out of the book, and it'll just curl up.
It'll start to
Yeah, it'll like flatten out on its own. So the book will tell you when it's ready, and you have about 10 or 15 minutes to actually press it after that to get everything lined up for your press. And I'll take you through the process here of doing that. Of course, now that I've got you here, I don't have any of my stuff like in front of me for I just cleaned up my bin, and I don't have all my chamfer boards and things in front of me. But let me find something for you, Jack.
So Rick, is steaming a required part of the process, or only if certain things exist on the cover or in the book?
So steaming takes out deep wrinkles, especially, but not the big wave. What I call the big wavies.
Okay.
So if I have I sell these chamfer boards that I make.
Yep.
And these things are a pain in the butt to make, man. Like I've sold thousands of them now, but they are not easy. So what I do is I soak them in salt water on one side until they're soft, and then I'll press. I have a forming press to press them down at an angle, and then while they're wet, I have 3 different belt sanders that I sand them at different like fillets, and they have a tool that helps me make it, and then I dry them, and then I get the salt out of it, and then I sell them. But they have a curved edge. Yeah, it's well, you know how I roll, but
I know how you roll.
These have a curved edge. Thank you. They have a curled edge on them, and what that does is it allows the spine of the book to form around that edge, right? So let's say I have this She-Hulk book here, right? And so you don't have to use a piece of silicone release paper with it, but I do because it helps it to last longer. So what I'll do is I'll put one in the front and the back
Okay.
typically, but more, I'll just model the front here. So I'll put it usually behind the second page, not the first page, because the first page is often, especially in older books, it's got a lot of the print black stuff on it, and it gets on here and it makes it dirty. So I go to the second
Gotcha.
page generally, and I tuck it in there with the chamfer end up in like that.
Okay.
And then I'll tuck it in there like that. Okay, so on my press is over here. This is just a regular old press. I used to have a bigger one in my shop, but I don't even actually. Oh yeah, here's a whole ton of this stuff. So, and what I'll do is I have 2 of these boards here, Jack. And the reason that these exist at all, and these are 6061 aluminum. Aluminum is better than steel because it has
Perfect.
higher specific heat capacity and a higher heat of conductivity. And they're planar, and these are polished and electroclean, so they don't have caca on them. And the edges are deburred, so that's what I have with these. And they really fit.
Yeah.
The reason you don't technically need a top one, but I recommend people do one. But they're great to have the bottom one, because what I'll do in the bottom one is I'll push this down, and I'll preheat the bottom to 165 degrees for most books, but the modern books, which is 1990 or newer, typically thinner paper, I'll go to 135.
Okay.
The temperature down, because the ink will stick to the other pages, right? So it's Arrhenius law, so it's time at temperature is how this works.
Okay.
But I'll preheat the bottom when it reaches the temperature. That way I don't have to flip the book over. I'm doing both sides at once, right? So let's pretend I have another. Well, I don't have to pretend. I'll just put another one in the bottom of this book, and I'll put a chamfer board facing the other way like this. And so now I've got this thing bound, and you'll see the shape of the shape is gonna it's gonna curve to this. Now the chamfer isn't perfect. I've wasted way too much time making these things perfectly flat and even.
Okay.
And it's okay if there's little spaces that are high and low, because the book it'll just form around it under the pressure, because the inner part of the cardstock, this is SBS cardstock, is flexible, and it'll just form and make a straight line anyway. It's okay. And someone said, I don't think most collectors recognize how much dry cleaning with cotton balls can do for book. Yeah, you can actually, if you just take a regular cotton pad, and for reasons that escape me, I don't
really. Okay.
Yeah, like you will pick up a lot of stuff. And actually, I have one sitting right here, because I think that my kids come and steal them for their comics. And so you look like this, and just wiping in one direction, that's just passively, just dum-da-dum. Don't sit here and like get anal about it. Just like you're petting a cat, just like, here, kitty, and then just like, and then you'll look and go, wow. If you then take a MacuClean, which is this cleaning solution that I made up, and it's just saponification of fatty acids. I just make this stuff literally in my garage. It'll pick up a lot. It breaks the surface tension down to like 20, 25. And then you'll pull a lot of dirt out of the book. And then some people say that it looks brighter and cleaner. Depends on if it removes, I think, the kaolite from the surface, which is like a clay, like a coating compound. But that's more you rubbing. It's not the stuff doing it, because it's not soluble for sure. It's like you can rub the stuff through and the gloss will come off, right? So so that really helps a lot. Like in some cases, it can make the book, it makes the colors like really pop. Sometimes it doesn't do anything. Like it just depends on what you're doing.
Okay.
So let's say that this is warmed up. It's not quite yet. And I have this aluminum board on the bottom, which is right here. And the reason I have that on the bottom and the top, Jack, is because in this one here, the heating element in this top guy is an S shape. It goes like S. And if you use a FLIR gun and look at it, it will be, you can see the shape of where it is, and it's uneven. Okay. And if you heat especially newer books, you will actually see, did I get something on my head, my eye? And you will, what you'll do is you will see exactly where that is, and it's uneven, and you can actually see it in the books. Sometimes you can see the book where it will be wrinkly more around there, so that the metal helps to even it out. And it is necessary. I mean, it's not everything's necessary in this world, because I think you can press with encyclopedias. It doesn't really matter. You can do a lot of this stuff without buying anything at all. But if you're going to heat press, you got to have this plates. So then I put that here. I put a silicone paper underneath it, and this is to prevent any patterns in the metal or in this Teflon from impregnating themselves onto the cover. And then I'll put one on the top as well. And then what I'll do is I will Then I'll take another, like a thin sheet of paper or 100-pound paper, or I'll take another board, put it here. This is just to keep any imperfections in this guy from being pressed into the book itself. And I put this, notice I'm holding this with my hand so that I don't disturb the stack. And then I drop this down here, and then I push this over, and then I'll move this, and I can feel what 50 to 60 pounds feels like. But I'm also building a tool, and I've done so many right now, and I have this whole kit in my closet that I'm working on, a transducer, like a pressure load sensor to show people an app on their phone what the pressure of the book is.
Okay.
I've actually been mapping the pressure from the front to the back so people could see it. And that they have this, and then I push it down to, that's 55 pounds. And I let that go for 600 seconds. And then I'll show you what that looks like. That's actually a newer book, so that's going to be too hot for it. Okay. Jerry says he has to run. I'm going to miss Jerry. See you later, Jerry. He's on the East Coast, so he's late for that guy. But
yeah,
good night, Jerry. It's fun to see you. Someone says, if I find that Immaculate Clean is always affecting the ink, if I mix it too strongly, I don't know. I've used pure Immaculate Clean on comics before, and it doesn't always affect. I do find that it can affect, especially reds and yellows, especially older books. There's certain colors, if I see it, like I just back away entirely. I'm like, I'm not even going to touch that book. But yeah, I would say too strong. I usually mix it between like about 4 to 6 grams per liter, which is 0.5%. So it's not much. I would definitely back off on it. And I was actually not rub very strongly. The weirdest thing is you can take 2 books side by side, and I've done a Brother Voodoo book where I did 2 side by side, and one of them Immaculate Clean takes off, so you get another one it doesn't. It's the same exact book, but however they're stored, it comes off. But I would recommend, lighter wiping and gentler wiping for sure with Immaculate Clean in that case. Anybody else has any tips? Please put anything in there that you want. When someone says Darren says I have put books on a plastic coat hanger, hung them in the shower curtain with the shower floor. Yeah, it steams the whole book, and that is a brilliant idea. That's true. People put them in a steaming box. People put them in a box. I should build one for people. I don't do it much myself, but it does work. And Bob said, Rick just nonchalantly shows Amazing Fantasy 50, Amazing Spider-Man, the 2 most iconic comics. It makes me sick. Yeah, I'm a little jaded. Sometimes my room is full of because people send me books to work on too. So sometimes the books in my room and in my safe, which is where I keep them most of the time, it's got ridiculous books in there, Yeah,
just at arm's length, you just go ahead and grab one.
Yeah, there's one sitting around here somewhere.
Yeah.
You sort of, they lose their magic a little bit, right? So this book is, this one's coming to temp, right? Once it comes to temp, I give it the 600 seconds. I'm gonna let this cool to ambient temperature. So what I do is I turn this off. It takes about 40 minutes for the center of the book to come to ambient temperature. So I let it sit there for that long. And I'll let this cool down just a little bit now, and I'll show you what I do now, because that's the basic wipe down. And I forgot to tell you about this part. This part here, this stuff here, I usually take my trusty Benchmade knife and I cut a little thin slice off of it, and then I'll take cut it into a little wedge, or make a little pointy thing like this. Mm-hmm. And you can actually take a book and you can rub deep stains off of a book. But if you look in a microscope and you see what it does to a book, you would probably never do that again. If you like comics at all, because you can grab a book like this, and this one you do have to go back and forth, because if you go a pattern just one way, they'll make little strings come out that you'll be able to see. So then you just kind of grab just do this. And then what it'll do is it'll brighten that area up and pick up a lot of dirt. This melamine sponge has a really high surface area, but it's also very strong. Okay. It will really pick up stuff, Jack. It'll take stuff out, but if you look at the paper, those little fibers that were woven like this are going to be all stuck like that now. And so it's going to be weak.
Right. But if you do that, so doesn't it leave if you just do it at certain spots, it's going to be real noticeable, wouldn't it? If it cleans, wouldn't it be?
Sort of. Sometimes it's ridiculously noticeable, and sometimes it's not. If you're gentle with it, it's not. Well, this is another thing I wanted to tell you about. These are water stains, right? I don't know if they're showing up on the camera, but I'll try to get it close. Can you see this spot right here? That's a water stain. Water stains you got to get by making the book wet. I don't know if you've seen my videos, Jack, about taking square bound covers off and on.
I don't think I've seen that one.
If you do, I have a video about how to take the square bound cover off. I have a special tool that you brace this thing and it gets it just barely wet with
Okay.
MacuClean, and then you can just peel the cover off, and then how to like square that up and rebind it. But when you've got it off, it's a good time to take. I've done so many giant size X-Men ones this way, and then you can rinse with water. I have that washing machine, my MacuCube. You can rinse the water stains off of a book, and it works really well. And that took me, I think it was like 18 different trials before that thing actually worked, but it works pretty good now for that. But then you also have to keep the cover from shrinking. And I haven't shown that much because it's in a huge industrial oven and I can't get a camera in there.
Okay.
But I put it on a piece of plastic and I put the cover between another piece of plastic and I put it in there, it draws a vacuum and heats it. Because the cover could shrink a little bit under that. And
Gotcha.
that prevents it. Yeah. Oh yeah, Bob says, wait a minute, you have a tool to remove square books? I made a tool. I don't sell it. I don't know why. I probably should. But it all it is, Bob, is a couple pieces of plastic that have is it sitting around here somewhere? It's probably sitting right here. I usually keep it around me. It's imagine a gosh, do I have one sitting here? I probably do. Imagine a piece of plastic like this one, which is laser cut out. And it has a slot cut, a square cut right here. And there's two of them. And I put the square bound book between the two like this, Bob. And then what I do is I clamp it between two and I put it in a box with a little bit of a MacuClean. It soaks just to this line, just to this line right here, barely. And then after about 45 minutes, you'll be able to open the book up like this. Oh, Golden Age goodies. Hey, thanks. I'm glad you got that. What did you order, Golden Age goodies? And then you can actually just pull this with your finger like that. And then what you do is you actually let the outside dry to the touch, because wet paper is weak paper. I say it all the time. And so what you do is you let that dry to the touch, and then the glue will still be wet. And you'll be able to take this and pull this open, and it will pop right off. Like sometimes I have to take a tool, like a scupula from the lab or something, and rub it, and that will and it will fall off. And then the glue will the gluing agent will be here on this inside of the book. And then I take it off of there. You can rub it with an eraser. I actually use a belt sander to belt sand the glue off, which is nerve-wracking on a giant size X-Men 1. And then you can rebind it. I make methyl cellulose glue, right? And then I have a tub of it right here, because I made this stuff with Nolan actually. So I make this stuff, it's in there. So I make this stuff and then I rebind it. So I have a little stencil that actually allows me to, it makes a slit just exactly where the square bound spine goes, and I paint right up in the middle, and I square the book up, and then I rub and get the bubbles out of it, and it's perfectly square. I have 2 videos on it, and it is ridiculously square when you're done. To dissolve this glue off the spine, Bob asked me to dissolve this glue off the spine. You can actually just rub it with an eraser, and that glue is like rubber. It like rolls up when it's wet and just comes off. I set it in. You can set it in water, Bob, when you take it off, but it's I use a MacuClean or SDS, which is sodium dodecyl sulfate at 0.2%, or MacuClean, both just lower the surface tension. Take the book out and then let the square bound dry to the touch. The glue will be wet, but the spine will be dry, and then you can peel it off. That way, it'll just pop right off. And Custom Boy says methyl cellulose is a miracle. Indeed it is. It really is good stuff. And you can make it. I mean, I have some at the lab. I think you can buy it at Amazon. So this thing is pretty toasty right now. So I'm not gonna. I don't know if I can take it out of there without burning my fingers off. But I always use a couple of makeup pads as my trick as a heat touching pad here. So I'll take this book out, Jackie. You can see, and this is actually too hot for this She-Hulk book. I just don't care about it. So I usually pick this up and I wait for the book to drop, which is right about there. See, it just drops.
Oh,
See how
gotcha.
it takes a couple seconds? Yeah. You can feel it too. And then what I do is I will take the book out. Oh man, that actually helped this book quite a bit. I was shocked at how well this book. This is a subscription book that just came today, and look how nice it looks now. Right? See how I don't know if you can tell, but it's like it had a lot of wrinkles in it before. It's like ridiculously shiny and flat now, and so it looks nice, right? It looks good. And what the great thing is that the chamfer board is really smooth. You see how like the corners are like, see how that looks like a nice beveled edge
Oh, and it's got a nice
right
sheen on
there.
it now. Yeah.
Yeah, it does too. And it's this edge is it's hard to see. Oh, this is coming up because it's drier on the outside than the inside. And so that's, oh, Bob says, what percent of MacuClean to water? I use 1% of MacuClean. Oh, not 1%, 1 gram per liter, 1/10 of a percent. And that's it. Watch that video, Bob. You'll see it. You'll see. And so you'll hear this sound is the sound of a book that's put in too hot for, watch this. You're going to hear this in a second. You're going to hear a crackly sound here from this guy in a second. All this sticking sound is the sound of over 135 for this age of paper. Hear that? They will, for a year or more, these will be, the glue, the ink is slightly wet. And so they'll stick together if it's over 135. That's why you don't want to do that. It's okay in this case. It didn't really do anything to it, but it could be a problem. And so there it is. It's looking good. Looking good. So what I'm going to choose over here is I'm going to show you is cold pressing. I took this out. I took the chamfer board out. You don't always do it, but it depends on how natural you want this to look. Now, if you don't want any of these spine ticks things to come back, they call that reversion. Reversion is when they return later, and usually right 10 seconds before CGC picks it up to grade it, it's when they come back. Right? So you don't want to see that. So and to keep that from happening, there's a couple things we do. One is I take this ridiculously thick piece of lucite that I cut and I flame polish the edges on it. It's really expensive, and you could use an encyclopedia, to be honest with you. It's not necessary, but it is super cool to then take this and just plop it right on there. And what it does is you leave it there for, I do 3 to 5 days. I don't know if you could, I should have had my other camera turned on. It looks like this, and it looks really cool to have it sitting like that. And what it does is it insulates it from the temperature and keeps weight. But if you use this thick 3/8 one, you don't need any additional weight. Actually, you don't need much weight at all. You only need 2 pounds. And in fact, if you use a lot more than 2 pounds, it's actually worse for it because it puts a force on it that spreads it not necessarily out evenly, but if there's a wrinkle in it, it doesn't let the book naturally come to its own tension levels. So it's nice that a couple pounds is perfect. And that's all you need for regular book. I let it sit 3 to 5 days. Now I have another tool, which is a reversion stopper that I take. If you have a spine tick you want to take out, I recommend you leave the board in, or one of these little boards called a Tic Tac board. And I'll give you some of these, Jack. And it has a similar thing. You see how it has the staple cut out in it? You see that right there? Mm-hmm. That is exactly the size of a staple for a comic book. And so you can get right around the staple, and then you can work it with a tacking iron, and you can work those out.
Okay, that was going to be, or that's a question as you're talking to. I didn't know if pressing it just like you just done in the press will automatically take spine ticks out, or depending on how bad they are, or do you have to do something different like you just spoke about?
It can. It doesn't always, and especially near the staple. It depends on where the staples are placed. Especially the staples are towards the top of the book, it won't, because the staple will make a relief area where you can't press in there. And this helps because you can push this up against those staples in the book. Like, I'll see if I can show you an example in this case. So if you can see where the staples are in a book, like here, this is the middle of a book, but you do this like close to the cover. Let me see if I can show you on this one. I don't know if it's going to work, but you see the staples there, and you can push this see how it fits like just against it perfectly, like that, like right there. It pushes there and allows you to work the staples out, like the area right around it. So it's like 0.49 millimeters wide and 0.55 millimeters deep, and it allows you to then have this shape where you can get the spine ticks out just around it with a tacking iron. I'm not sure. I've lost so much of my stuff. I've been loaning it to friends, and I don't see it anymore. But I have a tacking iron here. I do that exact thing with.
Okay.
And that really helps. This is just like a chamfer board, but why don't I take the chamfer board and cut the spots into? I did a survey of all the comic books, and they are not. The staples are not the same distance from the top, and they aren't the same different distance from each other.
Okay.
So you really can't cut a common board with both. So you need to do like one at a time. And this is a really an indispensable tool for it. And I laser cut these, and then I fill it and buff the edges out. And then I have to go back and laser cut. Once it's polished, I have to go back and laser cut just that little teeny bitty square out of it. Every one is precision cut out of each one. And only about a third of these actually make it in the market. I'm unhappy with 2/3 of them and just throw them out. but that's what they look like. I have a huge pile. Like these are the ones that didn't make it like just yesterday. This huge pile didn't make it just yesterday. Like these are the ones I didn't like because there's some weird
Oh, wow.
aberration with it. Yeah. So I'm super anal about it. And you know me, I'm never home. So when I'm home, I'm like trying to do this like really fast and get through this if I'm not actually traveling somewhere. But I have all kinds of, if you look over here on my little desk, Jack, I'll show you. I have all kinds of chemicals and stuff out here. I'm constantly like trying to freeze parts of comic books. You can freeze crayon off with liquid nitrogen. It'll just break off the book. I have this thing, it's called an amacti ball, which is, it's just a stainless steel ball. It's just chrome steel ball. But I call it vacuum ball because I make a little holder to keep it from rolling off the desk. But if you do those with a figure 8 on the book, so let's say you put a board underneath it and you take your hand and you draw an 8 like this on it and don't go back and forth. It'll take like sometimes a signature or a deep wrinkle out. It takes those out of there, evens out the pressure in that.
Huh.
Especially if you get it slightly damp first. You get a Q-tip mostly dry, but a little damp. Just roll it, just slightly damp. It'll allow you to press that out. So these are valuable that way. And we can talk about all this stuff next time you come up here. We'll do another video and I'll show you those things. But that's the basics of it, just the cleaning and pressing. It's super easy. You saw what I did, and you saw how much better this book looks. Yeah. You're going to get this at first. You're going to get these wavies. This corner is going to lift. Okay. You can actually take water if you wanted to. And so watch this corner here. I'll show you. I'll show you this corner. You can do this. You can actually just take that like that, and you can actually just rub water on it and then press it again if you felt like it. If you were in a hurry, and you'll see that it will just relax in a second. It'll just it'll come down on its own. But it curls up a lot at first, but in a moment it will relax. And see how it's up really high. Yep. I'll do it over here too. When the water gets through it, it'll sort of relax and it'll bring itself down to a normal level, and you could press it again. Okay. But if you don't want to get it wet, you can just let it sit for 3 to 5 days under this page stuck to the other page in this book because it was too hot for that page of the book, which is fine. This is just a reader anyway. But you can let it sit for 3 to 5 days under this thing, and it'll settle back down. Okay. You won't have that problem, that corner lift. So Jack, you just learned like 80% of what people. So one guy says, I usually leave. Oh, this is interesting. Golden age. He says I usually leave the pressing machine for more than 7 days. No, so that's possible. But if you want to free up your machine to do more pressing, you can cold press, and that's absolutely fine. You don't need 50 or 60, but you do. In fact, you don't profit at all from that amount of weight on a book. But if you take a nice encyclopedia or a brick and a board, or I like these things so I can see what's where and how far it's done. Because the nice thing about those is you can just give it a quick little lift like this. You can just say, oh, does the wrinkle come back? You lift it. If the wrinkle's coming back, it's not done. Just drop it real quick. And that frees up your machine to do more pressing. But yeah, if you don't have a lot of time, on your hands, you can. Actually, someone here says custom toys. You can send me the rejects. I'm gonna do that. Like I have a bunch of books right now that have I have like a huge stack of books like right here that I'm actually just gonna start giving books away. I have a huge pile of these books that I'm just gonna start handing them out to people. These are books that I've cleaned or started to clean and change my mind on, or replace the staples, and I'm just gonna start handing them out. I'm almost gonna hit 5,000 subscribers, and when I do, I'm gonna start. Oh, Jack, remember this? I gave you a 39 and a 40 of Spider-Man. Remember that? Long time ago.
I do have a couple Spider-Mans you gave me. Yes, I do.
Yeah, I gave you one of each of those. Those Ramitas are the best ever, dude. I'm not giving that baby.
No, you're the best. I appreciate that. No, I remember that.
Yeah. And someone says, the end result is an unnatural over-whitened books. I'm curious if it leaves a residue or damages the book over time. See new pressers drop sheets of paper 3%. Oh, this is a good question. I love this question. So I love these great technical questions. I'll bring it up here in a second. Anyway, I have a butt ton of comics that I'm going to start just giving away to people, and I'll pay shipping too. I'm just going to start give them away. I can't die with them. So he says, Dobity says, I think I said that. Excuse me if I said that correct. I've seen new pressers dropping sheets of paper 3% proximate covers, doing a pass into heat press and proximate. And his next question is, end result unnatural, over whitened books. I'm curious if this leaves a residue or damage the book over time. Don't know is my answer, but I think it might. So I do know that peroxide and especially bleach damaged paper and make it brittle and stiff. What that means for damage, I don't know. I know that it's works. It makes the book look whiter, and some of these books are ridiculously white. I have overwhite books too, so it is you're right, unnatural to the extreme. In oranges in particular, it really makes the oranges, and I think the reds, some of the reds too, bleach out. And I have a mask for Hulk 181 that just leaves the white areas white. So if I do a blue light exposure, it will whiten just that area, so it doesn't affect the oranges at all. But Jack, I don't know if you see my video where I did light. I did a video in also Dobity on the light and peroxide, and I did different concentrations of peroxide and different exposures of light. Once I found that 435 nanometers was the frequency of light that I needed, and it ends up that if you add peroxide, it does whiten it, but you can't. More time with light does it. It keeps the paper supple, but if you add peroxide, the paper becomes stiffer. I don't know specifically what it's doing to the paper. I suspect there's oxidation of the cellulose, and so the fibers in cellulose are generally very long, and they're strong for that. And so I think when you're oxidizing some of the lignin to look whiter, you're breaking some of those apart, and so some of the strength of the paper comes, and also sort of the flexibility of the paper comes from the length of the fibers. If they're shorter, then it becomes weaker. And so I think what we're doing is oxidizing some of those C double bond C in the cellulose to just two aldehyde groups. And so it becomes weaker in that case. And so I do believe it's damaging it. I don't know to what extent is the answer. I hope that helps. Golden Age Goody says, I'm working on foil cover with good success, but it involves removing the staple with a tool purchased from you. I will send them all to CGC. Oh, great. What do you do to the book? So the foil covers are tough. I find, and then tell me, Golden Age Goodies, if this is what you do, is that I have like the Venom, that Venom with the foil cover, and I have a bunch of foil cover books. What I find is you have to work them from the opposite side. And so I've been doing the same thing. I've been removing the cover and where the spine ticks are. There's nothing I can do on the front. I get it a little bit wet on the inside, and then I work it with either that staple tool, honestly, or with a ball, and I rub it from the other side with a ball, and then I reassemble. And the staple tool I have, Jack, is gosh, I was just taking a staple off the X-Men 1 this morning, and I don't have it with me, and I have a capable staple tool. So I have something that looks like this, but you know what Xylan is? The Xylan, like a Teflon coating. I take these and I stamp these things out in Scotland, actually, and then I sandblast it, make it thinner. I coat it in Xylan and Teflon, and then I have it UV cured so it won't scratch or put marks on the staple, which is the most common problem. And then I also have a tool, and of course I'm an idiot because I took them all to my shop today because I was taking those X-Men 4s and swapping the covers, and it has I have a tool that helps you line up the staples, Jack, exactly right, and it helps you to take them out and put them in. It's called a capable staple tool. Of course I'm an idiot because I don't have one sitting here because I went to my shop today, but it really helps, like a lot. And it helps you to get the tool line. It helps you make the staple lined up exactly right, and it helps you to take it out and put it in. That's going to be an advanced video we'll do another time for you. And those are pretty cool tools. So I know it's a lot for you to swallow, Jack, right now. Let's see what else Bob says.
It's all good. I mean, you guys are the experts on this. I mean,
yeah.
Some of the stuff. I mean, how do you I don't even know how you know to get to learn this stuff. So the fact you guys pop in a list of off is crazy.
Mostly keep talking to other people and also just thinking about it and then coming up. Look, for every one thing you see, there's 12 things that you don't see because they're not ready for prime time, or I ruined 10 books on it. And believe me, there's a lot of books ended up in the trash can because I had messed them up on the way here. And so Golden Age, because I put the whole cover in distilled water with the remade paper for 48 hours or more. So you mean the remade paper is on either side of it? I think that's what he means. Remade paper is like a polyspun non-woven fiber that Jerry the Jitterbug talks about a lot. And he he said, I think what Golden Age Goodies means is he puts distilled water on it and presses it between two glass plates. He might mean that. I don't want to speak for him. And Bob Smith says, as Dobity mentioned above, people use 3% peroxide mist to soak a piece of mirror paper, press it over a page and say, do you do this? I don't. I've heard of it being done before. I've been doing similar things with ink. I've been pulling ink out by putting isopropanol or toluene in a piece of paper, and I basically will trace an ink signature out, and I will press that and pull it. I haven't done that particular method because I've been using the MacuClean. I think it works well. I've heard of a lot of successes, but I don't generally do it myself. Someone else said, "Hi, I just dropped in. Forgive me, this is a repeated. I'm just getting items together to start pressing. Is there any proffered release paper I should use?" Well, I have a paper from a place called an Albany called Warehouser that I have bigger sheets of silicone paper that are they're not slightly, they're almost twice as thick that I use. And regular, like this kind of stuff that you can buy, like silicone release paper at Amazon, works fine. It just doesn't last very long, and it wrinkles quickly, especially if it gets wet. These wrinkles that you see on the edges here. So I have a thicker one that I sell, and I think I sell like 5 sheets for $1 or $2. So I don't know. So you can buy those from me if you want, or just look for parchment paper on Amazon. See, he says yes. So what he's doing is he gets it wet with DI water, and then presses it like flat between a couple pieces of remade paper and some plates. But I work it from the inside out. It's 6-1. There's more than one right way to do this stuff. Like someone's saying, the heat overlay press. There's a guy that wrote a book I haven't read. I'm ashamed I haven't read his book. I should have by now. I just haven't. He does that, and I just went a different way. Use silicone paper from Rick. Thank you, Custom Toys. I hope you like it. Let us know if you like it. I have some Silver Age Avengers I was going to try it on, but beware of damaging the 60s Marvel book seemed brilliant. Yeah, dude, totally. Like I was working on, like I was telling Jack, 2 X-Men 4s today. I'm swapping the covers out on them because one is double signed by Lee and Kirby and the other one's not. But it has a better cover, so I'm swapping them around. The book's so brittle. I'm really, it has that marble chipping on the edge. I'm very hard to not break it. So I did steam them first, so it relaxes the paper, so it's more flexible. But wet paper is weak paper, so when you're pulling the cover off of a wet book, it's concentration time, right? You have to be really careful. Another question here. We have Rick, have you made a video lifting ink off a trace signature with a polypropylene blah, blah, blah? Yeah, I do. It's one of my earliest videos, and I used to have a lot more, but I had to take them down because I had some music from the Eurythmics or something in the background, and you made me pull them. A lot of my stuff, like just because I had music on. So once I started getting monetized, but I do. One of my earliest videos shows me a Justice League #1, and I'm pulling the signature right off the book. By the way, the guy who signed that book back in like the early 60s contacted me. Like I pulled his signature off the book. He wrote me. Like it was his signature from his childhood.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, like it's really weird, right? I'm like, holy crap. He said, and so Jack, I don't know if you're keeping up with this story. Like I found out who my real dad was recently, and that wasn't the dad I thought, but I have a brother, and he actually has his own. He does a YouTube like a show too, and he collects comic books. It's the weirdest thing ever. He actually not only lives in Washington, but he lived like a mile away from me at one point in Bothell. So
wow.
It's like, and my other brother, like my cousin, has a DeLorean that looks like a time machine. Dude, his favorite movie is Back to the Future and stuff. So I'm gonna go and visit him in a couple months. So we're gonna have. These are my people, right? So I'm gonna finish up by refocusing on Jack here because we only have a couple minutes left. Jack, what did you learn today? And can you recap what you learned? And if there's anything you didn't learn that you'd like to know, what would it be?
Well, first off, yeah, I learned that there's a lot of technique out there. Like I said originally, going into this, it's more of a I think of an intimidation factor. While it might seem so simple, but there's some points to it that I know there's some patience to it, and you gotta understand, temperature is important, time is important. It's just the process that you showed, of how to do it. While it seems, it seems intimidating, but maybe it's not so bad if you're kind of in the level 1 phase, right? Jumping into where you guys are talking, getting up to level 3 stuff and pulling staples and switching covers and cleaning them all, getting wet with liquid and all that stuff. Maybe at some point in time, but for sure from my standpoint, I mean, I'm obviously definitely more in level 1. I think one of the things I learned is just obviously there's a lot of support out there, and I think that's what I also like about the comic book community.
I gotta tell you, Jack, I'm gonna interrupt you just for a second. Like Golden Age Goodies here sharing stuff for free with people. Yeah, he's a good guy, right? And I do the same thing for free for people because we're good guys. We're mostly good guys. There's a few exceptions, believe me.
Sure.
But we're mostly good people out here, and we're all doing the thing we love. We're all having a great time. These are good people, and some of my best friends now that I've never met are these people who come in and communicate and talk, and I know who they are, I know what they like, and we all like the same stuff. So how can we not like each other and doing this stuff? So I'm glad you appreciate that. And you're going to find a new community. Like there's a community of us nerds that hang around asking who's
Hmm.
stronger, Superman or Hulk kind of thing. But there's also this community of people who do this that are willing to share with each other and willing to communicate. And they're really a positive group. And I really appreciate them like so much. They make me feel good about what I do, because I did this for several years with like 0 people watching it, and then suddenly it kind of
Yeah.
exploded. And it's good to have these people to support. So I appreciate that you recognize that there's good people and that we can chat online. Like leave comments on my videos of any questions, and someone will see it, Jack, and they'll reply to you. I promise you. They're not really keeping secrets on this stuff. They're really sharing and
Right.
helping one another.
Well, yeah, and I think that's really one of the big things. Obviously, proved through here is just I'm just a guy. I just like collecting comics. I enjoy it, right? I mean, I have tons of comics. I have great comics.
Yeah.
Things. These
Yeah.
are things
Show us
that
some. Yeah. Wait. Let's go through your
yeah,
stuff. We haven't seen your
these are
books.
just
We only got to.
well, yeah, just I mean, these are stuff I pulled that has I didn't know. I mean, some stuff is not so bad. Some stuff is. I mean, in some cases, I mean, for instance, like I don't know, like pressing. I don't know if you could be able to see it, but if you look at
Yeah.
the top right corner there, it's got a blunt. It's got a little
Yeah.
crease.
Yeah.
There's maybe some slight crease on the cover, but I mean, I have a handful of these. I have a couple of them. It seems like, but I'm as well as the back. There's some slight creases towards the top, but I think
Yeah.
it seems like a simple press probably would take that out. I didn't know. That was one of the
Yeah.
questions I had, but it sounds like it probably
Absolutely.
would.
Absolutely.
Earlier, I was talking to you. I
Yeah.
laughed, and I think you answered my
By
question.
the way, you don't know that what you got there is a little more special than you. So, Bob, tell us why that's special, because he's got a newsstand, Secret
Yep.
Wars #8. That means it's got the Spidey face on it, right? Or not not the Spidey face, but the barcode.
The barcode. Yep. Yeah, it's not the direct edition. So I got a couple newsstands. Yep.
So I ended up getting 12 of this book on my 17th birthday. This book came out. I got a dozen of these books because I told everybody I wanted it. I ended up with 12
my gosh.
of them. And 10 of them have never been opened or read before. They still look exactly like this one. Yeah, exactly. They're all got the black spine, and so yeah, I've got a ton of them. And I just lucked out because I knew that was coming. Like we all knew something was happening, and I told everybody, "Give me a copy of this book." So it ended up coming out,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Oh wait, someone says here your affiliate link for Hangar 9 Pro Trim soon it's no longer available. Where can I get one? What's a good alternative? You know what? I got to get one too, and I couldn't find one recently because I gave mine away. So I will change it, Bob. I will put another one up there. I have another one that I bought. It's on its way, and if that one works, I'll make an affiliate link for that one. But the last one didn't. The edges were too sharp and were putting lines in my book, so I'm gonna do that. So someone else says here, Custis says, Jack, I just started doing this 2 months ago. Learned so much from Rick and Jerry. Remember, you'll never stop learning. Any questions? Shoot me an email. There we go. mycornercomics@yahoo.com, dude. Yeah, he's ordered stuff from us. I think I recognize that name. And I can tell you, Jack, that my poor wife, Heather, who's never read a single comic book in her life, has handled and seen more Hulk 181s than anybody who's never read a comic. Like people keep sending me books and stuff.
That's insane.
She goes, how come all the Hulk books are orange? I said, they're not all orange. This Hulk 181's orange. We just happen to have a pile of them in the house, So
it's in the house.
Yeah,
it's right there.
Exactly. She has no clue, right? She's just like, oh, yeah. She just laughs and she goes, aren't any girls in here? I said, yeah, there's girls. I said, listen, and I told this story before. I said, like, if I could go back to 15-year-old Rick Morgan and tell him, look, man, I know this stuff's super nerdy now, but in like 30, 40 years, it's going to be, every time you go to a comic book convention, it's going to be wall to wall girls in spandex and guys dressed up like superheroes. And it's going to be a different world. I would have told a young version of me to hang in there, brother. Your time's coming. I told you I met Ewan McGregor a couple months ago, right?
I saw the video.
Yeah.
I watched that video when you were in Scotland.
He found my backpack actually. And he his iPhone pinged my Apple thing, and he came back and I got to talk to him and Dennis Lawson and who plays Wedge and Anthony Daniels in the same room. I was hanging out like this is surreal, to do that. So, and then Bob says here, Jack, to my knowledge, Rick and Jerry, the two of the better channels. There are other good ones, and I've learned and I've bought a lot of stuff. Bob definitely has. He's used the washing machine, right, Bob? I think he said he's really liked the washing washing machine. There are lots of good channels. I can't
Gotcha.
keep up with them all, and I can't claim uniqueness in anything that I do except the things that I first did myself. And I can't claim that I'm better than anyone else. I really don't know about all the surveying stuff. And there's a book
Hmm.
by a guy, I forget his name, it's Captain something. And and there's books that people I haven't read it because I just haven't found a need for it yet. It also gives me plausible deniability that my stuff's my own stuff if I don't read it. So I kind of try not to do it just to keep my mind pure. But there are other good resources. Obviously, you've got me, so come out and hang out at my place. I'll give you a beer and we'll clean some comic books or something.
Well, no, that's absolutely it. So,
Yeah,
obviously, for many reasons, just our friendship and I mean, your passion
yeah,
behind it. Also, I mean, why wouldn't I?
yeah. We'll have a good time. We'll play some Halo and we'll drink some beer.
There we
Well,
go. Just like the good old days.
exactly. We'll be like spilling beer on a comic books
That's right.
laughing.
And the frozen
Yeah,
pizzas. Can't forget the frozen
yeah.
pizzas and burritos.
Totino's, frozen pizzas, the little chopped up pepperonis sprayed all over the top of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and I appreciate the comments from everybody saying stuff. That's cool. I appreciate
Well,
that.
great.
So.
Great, Jack. Well, I'll let you go because I know our hour's up, but we'll do this again. And I think we can either, if you order like a press and some stuff, I'll walk you through it. That'll be a fun one.
Okay.
Or I'll just have you up at the house and bring your books and we'll do them here, man.
Okay.
We'll go to my shop
No,
and do it there.
that'll work. So
We'll have
like I
Nolan
said,
videotape us. Yeah.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, I'll probably come through you for your shop, and that's what I reached out to you in the first place was, going that route. So and seeing what I could do. So I appreciate it.
Thanks,
I
man.
appreciate everybody. And I appreciate it, Rick.
Yeah, I love you, brother. I'll see you next time, all right, man?
All right, man. Thanks, brother.
All right. Take
Bye
care,
now.
everybody. Bye, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
See ya.